Hello and welcome to the USO LMT Business Owners Panel, March 16, 2021. Thank you to all of our participants. We joined the beginning of our talk with our first speaker, Sandy Fritz.
12 employees. And so I've been massage therapist for over 40 years and own a massage therapy school and write textbooks. So I've been around the block a while on this. And I'm passionate to help people understand the employment model.
All right, Julie, do you want to go?
Sure. I'm Julie Marciniak, and I'm in Durham, North Carolina. And like Sandy, I've been in this for a while, but for a majority of the time, I've been a solo therapist, and I lease space to other therapists for 25 years, 24 years, something like that. And then a couple years ago, I decided to purchase my own space and was having difficulty finding the type of therapist that I wanted in there. And so I decided to hire employees, which I said I would never, ever, ever do. And jumped into that. And I am still learning. It's a huge learning curve. And I went in with a little bit of knowledge, and I learn more every day, sometimes more than I want to know. But I can't say that I wouldn't do it again. What I would say I would do is I would prepare myself a little bit better than I did when I jumped into it, with like a bookkeeper, an accountant, and just set myself up a little bit better than I did, because some lessons are hard to learn, and but they're good when you learn them, But so anyway, I am just trying to help other therapists out who are interested in going this route, and share what little bit I know, and that's it.
All right, Andrea.
Hello, am I muted still? No. I'm Andrea Montera. I am in the Portland, Oregon area. I have been an LMT 19 years and opened this clinic 6 years ago as a solo practice. We started to grow and had independent contractors until 3 years ago when my accountant said, hey, you got to turn them into employees. And like Julie, I was, well, for me, I was super intimidated, but mostly wanting to be a good employer and always wanting to do the right thing, which is what my business, the clinic, is built on. And so here we are. It started as a one-room clinic, solo practice. Now we have 5 rooms, and just continuing to grow, surviving COVID. And the mission is to constantly be growing and learning and sharing best professional practices and elevating the profession as a whole. And I'm an educator, and for me, the most important thing is that we're always pushing ourselves and pushing the standard to be higher. And I feel we have accomplished that here at Integrity, and kind of following the industry for the last 20 years and noticing how it's changed. So I'm happy to be here, happy to share knowledge. Thanks for having us, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on to do this. So the first thing I want to talk about is startup costs. So what did it take to begin your business? How much money? Tell us about your location, if you had build outs or anything like that. Did you get loans? Are you still paying them back? Are you leasing? What does that expense look like? And just kind of talk about, like, what are your ongoing monthly payments still from starting up your business? So you guys can just take turns. We'll go Sandy, then Julie, then Andrea, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
So the franchise model is a little different in that you are becoming part of a brand. And so the there's a franchise contract, and they go through and look at your disposable cash and how much you have on hand. And it really is so that somebody doesn't jump into it and are not financially prepared to weather the startup time. We had to take out, I own the building that we built out in, which is unusual. Most people will get space, they'll buy, rent space. And our build out was, and including getting all the equipment and the brand concepts with the decorations and the proper signs and all that, was $275,000. And so we are currently paying on that. The payment is almost $4,000 a month. So what did you put on there? Did you get the same amount? It could have been a lot more if I hadn't already owned the building. And then I made decisions to follow brand standard with the build out, but my rooms are a little bigger than brand standard. And I put water, sink and all that in every room. And the layout is a little different. We have 9 rooms. One is an esthetician room, but it's really nice to have that guidance, that there was an individual that from the franchisor that walked us right through, helped us with the loan process. They get all of the software programs and all that kind of stuff, and we can choose another route for payroll management or any of that kind of stuff. But it's almost like a group buying club with the franchise. So when they create these arrangements, there's usually a beneficial price point with all of that. So there we go. What you wanted, my dear?
Yes, exactly what I wanted. And then Julie, how about you?
Well, mine's a little different, and because I was flying by the seat of my pants, I basically got fed up renting from someone, and they were getting ready to go up on my rent. And I had lost a therapist who was renting from me and only had 2 renting from me. And I said, this is ridiculous. I've been renting for 20 some years. I could probably own something by now. Found something right around the corner, literally a block around the corner. And it was pretty rough. I actually had to talk my husband into it because it was basically a dump. But I got a loan from my dad for $20,000 and got a business loan for the rest. And I mean, it was really reasonable. I'm in a condo situation. There's 2 sides. There's several buildings in the parking, the area of whatever it is, and 2 sides. So one side, it's 1,400 square feet, and I paid about I think it was $120,000 for it. Really reasonable. Got my mortgage payment and everything for under what my rent was. And 3 treatment rooms. I built it out for 3 treatment rooms. The difference with my space is I teach barefoot massage. So I also incorporated that into my square footage. So about half of it is the teaching space, and then the other 3 are treatment areas with an office space and a foyer. And moved forward with that. And it was a lot of elbow grease. I had a lot of friends, family help me tear it down and build it back up. I mean, literally about 6 months of construction. that it took me. And I mean, basically, it was just my goal was to get my overhead costs down, and I did that. And then, even at that time, I had no idea I was going to go the employee route. Thought I was just going to rent rooms out, and I did bring a therapist over with me, and I rented to her. But the more research I did about everything, and bringing in other therapists, I wanted more control over the type of body work that was offered, the quality of body work that was offered, and what the space looked like. So by the time I just read social media and just all of the reading and stuff that I ran into, it's like, oh, you answer these questions, you check the boxes, check, check, check. You ask questions, you check. And it's like, are you independent contractor or employee? And all my checks were employee. So it was like stink, but I did it. And, and just, I'm still learning lessons along the way. I started off really wanting to pay my therapist more than the standard and what other chains I saw and everything. And I think I went a little bit overboard. And then after my next year of seeing all of my cost and everything, it was like, by time you pay the taxes and the income taxes and all of this other stuff, it's like, I'm coming out negative.
Right.
And I'm like sitting here going over figures from past years, looking at what I brought into the business versus what the other therapist brought into the business. And I'm like, I'm paying the bills. My income is paying the bills. I'm working a whole lot more than they are, and I'm kind of bringing them along. And but it's been, I think this is my 6th year I'm going on, and finally that number's coming down, and just learning things. And I think I still pay my employees a lot better. Well, they've said I pay them better. So it's just finding that balance, of really getting quality therapists and paying them accordingly, but still paying my bills and not going in the hole. So.
All right, Andrea, how about you? Oh, your microphone is muted.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. Hi. I love being the last one in line because I get to be like, yeah, like Julie, and like maybe a little bit like Sandy. I definitely resonate with Julie's story. So this is my 3rd location on the same street. So I've moved a block each time. So from 2nd to 3rd to 4th. I started out solo 6 years ago, and my build out in this little 9x13 space was maybe about $2,000. I had to create a wall because there was a big glass window in it. So I had to create a wall so there was privacy for there being a treatment room. I had this little tiny reception area that if somebody sat back in the chair from the desk, the door couldn't open. So it was a very, very tiny little space. And my 2nd location, I had to also build. I'm in a historic downtown area, so I was in a converted bank building, right? And now I'm in this 100-year-old Craftsman, and I was smiling when Julie was talking because this is an old restaurant. It was a restaurant. It was a hair salon. It's been a chiropractor. It's been a tea house. And I walked in here, and it was such a dump that I walked out. And then something said, remember possibilities. And so I walked back in, and I was like, okay. And I still have pictures from my first day where I was in what was the kitchen. It was now just an exquisite treatment room. And pulling off the fiberglass boards off the wall in between clients from my place down the street and finding holes in the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily I was at the time married to an electrician. So we rewired the whole place, and it was 5 months of construction the first year, 2 months of construction the second year, And then just finished last week another 11 weeks of construction.
Mm.
The first location, I borrowed money from my, as well, with my partner. And the second location, I reinvested profits from the business. I basically didn't pay myself the first 4 years before that I was open. And I was lucky because I had a husband with a good job. And I primarily, took care of our toddler. And, but the second location, I took out a $14,000 loan and then did a lot of the work ourselves. And that loan was paid off last year. So that was 3 years on that loan. And then this time I took out, for this building, I took out a $25,000 loan. And I would say our total costs in building out have been about $57,000 over the last 3 years. But we went from, we did floors, walls, ceiling, electrical, plumbing, sinks, decor, everything. And a lot of it I did, a lot of it my partner at the time did. And so, and like Julie, I was paying my employees way too much. One of the gifts of being shut down in COVID is that I got deep into math. Like I bring every meeting, I bring a calculator now. I never thought I'd be that person, right? I did a lot of math and realized that I was literally putting myself in the hole, being so proud to be the highest paying LMT employer, blah, blah, blah. But then I realized that I was not serving. And then I became a single mom. And then I was the reality of not being employed because I was just a sole prop and I had employees as a sole prop. So when COVID happened, I did not know how I was going to feed my son or pay my rent. And there was and so that's what woke me up. And I sat down and I did math for like 6 weeks straight, swimming in spreadsheets. I just reverse analyzed everything because like Julie, I had gone by the seat of my pants. It was a faith journey. Really, I was like, this is what's happening. This thing is growing. It's really good. It's good for everyone. Then all of a sudden I needed health insurance and I needed to pay myself. I also needed to honor, the work that we're all doing together because I'm a practicing provider as well. So it's been quite the journey. I still pay my employees really well. Everyone still has health insurance. I get paid. And, but man, it's a whole different world. And I've worked in every LMT job that there has been, I think the last 19 years. I try and create the best jobs I can, but it's no small thing.
Yeah, the story I'm sitting back here is the old gal in the bunch is not really tending to the business from the beginning. And, if you look at straight business recommendations, something called your payroll burden, which is more than just your hourly or your wage or whatever. It's also the payroll taxes and the workers' comp that you have to get and the unemployment that you have to provide. And so the payroll burden is more. What if you pay a therapist $20, you're adding at least another $5 to $7 on top of that for payroll burden. It should not, in a business, it should not be more than 35% of your gross income.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie.
Sorry, I'm muted. Okay, you hear me?
Yeah,
All right.
And I know you're
really,
right, Sandy.
I am.
that is really the next thing that I wanted to get into. So let's talk about payroll costs, payroll taxes, Social Security, workers' compensation, unemployment taxes, all that stuff. Like how many employees do you have? What does this cost? Because I know it's really expensive and nobody knows what that is. So
Yeah, I just looked at our payroll spreadsheet from last month. And now I'm the one that just said your payroll burden should not be more than 35%. Many service businesses will push that as high as 40%. We're still operating at payroll burden at 50 to 55%, which means that the owners we haven't gotten anything. the advances that we have made is we're not pumping as much money into the business. And a startup takes about 3 to 5 years, and COVID certainly affected that. So, and this is what I think a massage therapist coming out doesn't realize, that if they were on their own as a sole practitioner, they have to cover all of that. And the confusion is that they're taught too in schools. Schools are notorious for doing this. They're taught you're going to make $60 an hour, but you're not. It's just a real standard formula on that. If you're self-employed, half of it's gone. Half of it is gone to your overhead expenses and self-employment taxes that you have to pay, that the employer pays a lot of. And there's no unemployment access or any of that. And then on top of that, you've got your 2 jobs. You're the massage therapist for 20, 25 hours a week. And then you're also the business owner for 20, 25 hours a week. So if it looks like you're making more than somebody who is an employee, it may be that your business is turning a profit and you're earning money for being the business owner as well as the massage therapist. So when an employee comes in and they see, okay, they're charging $60 per session, and maybe more than that, depending on the demographics. But that's all my demographics will bear where I'm at. Now, it could be double where you're at, Andrea. But for me, in a semi-rural area of Michigan, if my price point for the standard massage session goes above 60, they're not going to come in. So the business, I have a cap. I have, I can charge as much as I want, but they're not going to pay it. They can't pay it. There might, so it's a balancing act between how much will the market bear and how much does it cost to do business in that market. So the massage therapist, I did some math on this. The massage therapists are earning, I don't like the pay per piece, by the way. I don't like paid per massage. I think that is very confusing, but that's how it's done. And so I factored it out that our massage therapists that work for me are paying, they're getting about between $24 and $25 per massage, and they're booked solid. And then we have to pay on top of that all the other payroll taxes and all that kind of stuff. So we don't offer a lot of benefits. So that $30, that $25 I paid that massage therapist is costing me $30. Plus I have to cover the cost of other employees in the business. I have to cover that as part of the payroll burden. So that then costs me another $5-ish. So it's about $35 out of that 60. And I still, now what's left of that, I have to pay the rent. I have to buy the toilet paper. I have to pay all the insurances. I have to do the marketing. So when employees think they're not getting paid enough, the newest AMTA's report that came out showed that a full-time employee is making the most money. And for the full-time, they were making about $36,000 a year. And that doesn't include gratuities. If that's part of what you do, that's something different. But I've had people say, well, how come you're not paying your massage therapist 60% well, I would be out of business. And that
Mhm.
model of a 60-40 split and all that, that's gone. That's old. Now, those were the days of maybe you could be an independent contractor, which you never were. That was a misclassified employee and all that.
Mhm.
So if your wage burden is too high, you're going to go out of business. A business cannot sustain a wage burden that high. And if a person wants a solid employment situation, they should see that the business's wage burden, that's one of the things they should check, is at least below 50%. So I think this is something Stephanie is trying, I think, to help with, is that when people come, and I'm not just talking about the franchise model. I got two people below me on the screen that are not part of the franchise model. The franchise model has always paid legally. They have always paid correctly, in terms of classifying correctly as employee and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean that individual franchisees can't be jerks, but so can independent people as well. So that's the biggest thing I think people don't understand is a viable business. There are tried and true ways that those economics have to play out or the business is going to falter. And how long are we going to work where we're not getting any money at all, let alone the goal for us, my son and daughter and I, is we want to make as much as our massage therapist makes. That's our goal for all the risk and everything else. That's what we're after.
Thank you. Do you mind if I kind of share the report that you sent to me and what those payroll wages were?
Yeah.
So in 1 month, it looks like we had $10,448 in payroll expenses, $3,593 in payroll taxes, and then $141 in payroll fees, right?
Yeah.
So it was almost $15,000 in fees that you had to pay just for payroll and your employees and your taxes.
And that's people don't understand the whole unemployment thing too. We have to pay a percentage of the payroll. And then if somebody claims unemployment on us, the rate is increased. So, we might be paying 2%, but if we get a claim on us, then they might jump that to 14%. Now that's a lot of money that we have to absorb as owners.
Yeah. All right.
Being
So
forced to lay off, 10 employees last year, unemployment rate is times 5. It's 5 times what it was. And I'd never let go of an employee before.
Yeah.
So it's significant.
All right. So Julie, do you want to talk about your payroll expenses and stuff like that you have going on?
I do not have all of those figures like Sandy does. One thing I realized going into this, well, a couple of years into this, was that I was in way, 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 way over my head. And fortunately, I had a client who is a bookkeeper and she does taxes as well. But she stepped in and took over all of my stuff and took her quite a few months to straighten out my mess. And basically, all I do now every month is when and we're on a trade basis, and she even keeps track of all those receipts, and that trade, that barter income is under my income. So it's all above board. And she comes in and she's like, give me all your receipts. And I gladly hand them over. And then at the end of the period or whatever, then she sends me these reports, and a lot of times I have no idea what I'm looking at. And I have to have her sit down and go, okay, here's what you're paying here, and this is this and this and this. And so, and I had to actually, a couple years ago, another friend helped me figure out, and I don't even know what it's called, but she helped me. We took all of my expenses, and it was helpful for me because my space was more than just massage therapy rooms. It was also the barefoot training room. It helped me. She helped me figure out what each room per day was costing me to run. And it really opened my eyes. I was like, what? I was just concerned about, what's my mortgage, and, how much my mortgage was, and my phone and my online scheduling, and, those things that about. But then when you factor everything in, and the payroll taxes and all of that, then it's just like, bottom line, this room every day costs you this much if you're open, with the lights on and electricity and all of this. And that was just very enlightening to me. And that was when I had to reassess also what I was paying my therapist and how I was paying my therapist, and all of that. So as far as, I can't come across with numbers like Sandy does, but because I'm still learning that. And actually this year is the year that I told her, I was like, okay, I've got this, I'm understanding this. You need to sit down now and explain some of these reports that you're sending to me, and that I'm turning into the accountant. So, so like I said, I feel like a baby still after just five years of having employees, but it's just so, it's a lot of info. It's a lot of stuff you have to know. And if I had been a business owner that was just hiring employees and running the business, I probably would have known a lot of this beforehand. But I have been, up until this past year, I've been a business owner who is working just as much, if not more, than my therapist. So not only am I seeing 15 to 20 clients a week and dealing with soap notes and doing all the social media and the web page and all of that, all these reports and all of this other information and stuff that I've had to sift through has kind of gone to the wayside, and I'm just like paying bills.
Mhm.
And now I'm finally seeing where I am not carrying the business with my clients. So I'm just kind of stepping back just a little bit and decreasing my hours so that I can start to pay more attention to this and be more mindful of where, what my expenses are, and being able to tweak the numbers and see what I need to change, and, where I need to focus more, and just, all of that. So hopefully I wasn't rambling and that makes sense.
Andrea, now with your business, I know it's a bit different. You're billing insurance and things like that, and you have more of like a medical clinical style practice. So what does this look like for you?
Yeah, when it was independent contractors, it was a whole lot of paperwork, because we would have claims that would take anywhere from 2 weeks to 15 weeks, sometimes a year or two. We get a check, right, if it went to litigation. There was a whole lot more, because we're all individually paneled. We don't work under a higher licensed individual, so all of us are required to get credentialed and paneled on our own, which is a pretty big expense. And then we've had to reactively write contracts and ask for that investment back if they choose to come to get the credentialing and leave, right? There's the burden of hiring a biller, which used to cost me 10%. And then we hired our own person. Post-pandemic, we have a part-time biller. It's a whole nother animal with insurance and charting and all of that, which is why I chose one of the motivators for having more control with employees, because at the end of the day, even I had subcontractors, if their charting wasn't good, then we could get denied or audited or any number of things. And then I'd already paid the IC, right? And I can't tell the IC how to work. So that's one of the reasons we went to an employee. We pay, did my math, Sandy. If I didn't pay myself, my payroll burden is 46%.
Not terrible. That's you're
Thanks. That's not paying me.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. Which means that it's probably 55% like where we're at. And you just can't sustain that forever. No business can sustain that forever.
No. And I just learned something from Julie, which I think I didn't want to learn because, like Julie, you're like you, I have, a year ago, well, not a year ago, the year ago was the missing year, right? By the way, it's a year from us being ordered to shut down here in Oregon. Like today is the year anniversary of furloughing, of Googling how to write a furlough letter and writing severance checks and putting together bags, laundry detergent, toilet paper, soap, whatever I could put together to be like, here, good luck. We're all crying, right? So the year before that, I was on a 6-month wait list. It was too much. And I have had to slowly extricate myself, which is great because it's requiring me to try and teach what I do and how I do. I'm like Julie, I'm a structural integrator, so I can't teach exactly what I do, but I can just try to continue to cultivate the therapist to at least adopt some of that perspective so they can carry on some of the work that I was doing. The more that I let go of my practice, the more there is to do, right? I was already doing full-time practice and the website and recruiting and hiring and payroll and HR and repairing the toilet and painting the walls, you know what I mean? And doing, community networking meetings and all of that. I practice 2 days a week now, and it's taken me a year and a half to just let go and then realize there's that much more to attend to, like you were saying, Julie, and I need a bookkeeper. Like I have an accountant, but I didn't realize that an accountant and a bookkeeper were
different.
Two different things. I have a really generous accountant who always answers my questions like that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm realizing now that I actually need someone to just do the bookkeeping piece so that I can have an understanding of what those things are. Like a lot of that I kind of figure out during COVID, but Stephanie was, you're asking me a lot of questions. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just make sure that the bank accounts aren't negative. Which
Right.
Thankfully, they never have been. The difference between this year and last year is that there used to always be $20,000 in a reserves account, right? That was for if there was a delay and if all of a sudden all the claims offices blew up and I needed to make payroll, right? Our payroll is about $20,000 a month. And then there's I kind of lost track of the question, but on top of that, yeah, there's, like Sandy was saying, there's payroll taxes, there's unemployment, there's workers' comp, there's health insurance premiums, there's perks, right? I make sure that my employees get a massage a month, but then there's still the way our pay structure is. And this was reactionary from COVID as well, because I couldn't get unemployment. And then I looked back at my career and I thought, if I ever was in this situation in the duration of my career, I still wouldn't have been able to pay my rent because I was working piecemeal, or I was working, I was getting paid. And I was looking at all the all the support groups on social media, and people didn't qualify for employment. They were doing full-time massage work, sure, 15 to 18 hours a week, but they were working 15 to 18 hours a week because they weren't being counted for their time charting. They weren't getting counted for, opening the clinic, setting up a room, and all those things. So I already had paid. I used to do hourly minimum wage plus commission. When we came back from COVID, I adjusted the pay to living wage. So I did what's considered living wage for the zip code, which is in our area is $15.61 an hour. You can't find an apartment for less than like $1,800 a month around here. Maybe 12 for like a pretty moldy place. That's, it's very, very expensive cost of living. So $15.61 an hour plus commissions, which I adjusted. Our therapists, I think they are paid too much, and I'm learning that I don't know. I have to do more math, and that's the amazing thing. Like, I've been in this profession for 20 years. I've worked in every capacity. Now I'm a business owner, and it's a whole other thing.
Right.
A whole other world that takes some dutiful effort. And like, sure, they say write a business plan and do all these things. I understand it now. Sure. All those things I could have done in the beginning, like you were saying, Sandy, that would have served me well now. But, like Julie, it's like I was just figuring it out as I rolled along. It was like, I am at the point I can't work for anyone anymore, not just because it's not worth it, right? And then it grew and it grew. And so I'm like this accidental clinic. So I called it an accidental clinic for a couple of years. I'm still learning. And what I'm learning is that it costs an incredible amount of time and money and effort and heart to do this work. And I can't tell you how many times and how many other clinic owners I've talked to and opening up the conversation of like, when did you sit on the floor of your clinic and just cry with your last dollar in your hand?
Right.
Like, I was doing that a couple weeks ago, right? Like, I have a responsibility for myself and everyone that's come to be a part of this.
The franchise, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Andrea, but the franchise structure gets a lot of flack because they say, oh, well, there's just a business person there, and they don't know anything about massage. Well, they know a lot about business, and their job in this partnership is the business. They need to listen to the massage therapists and all of that, so that it's a good working relationship. But business is very complex, and expecting somebody to do both and be an expert in both is a lot. And so the franchise, part of the agreement for being accepted as a franchisee, they provided all that structure for us. They had people that looked at us individually to write the business plan. They have a payroll. We use a payroll service, and it's a human resources service. So they take care of, we pay them, but they take care of all of that, and we just send the payroll numbers in. They make sure that we're compliant. And you could hire a payroll service or a human resource service, and I recommend that to most. Because it changes. It's so complicated, but that costs the business owner to do that. And so, I think it's unfair to hit somebody up and say, well, you don't know anything about massage. You just own the business. At the same time, I think it's unfair to a massage therapist who finds themselves with a clinic situation to expect to be both. It's hard enough to do that when you're I've been sole practice my whole life myself as a massage therapist. It's hard enough to do that for yourself, let alone doing that for employees. You just cannot, both of you said that, you cannot be a massage therapist, like a full-time massage therapist or even half-time massage therapist, and be a business owner with multiple employees. There just is not enough time.
It's super true, and you're gonna make me cry, Sandy, because like one of my best talents is reaching and touching people and teaching, and it's either one or the other, and this has gotten so big that I can't turn it around, and I have all these great therapists who are working here now, I've had to let go of my own practice to attend, sorry, to this business.
Thank you
Well,
so much, Andrea. Like,
yeah.
people need to see this. This isn't easy, right?
I'm not the only one. I can't tell you how many clinic owners I've been talking to over the last year. It's just, it's a real thing. I'm a mighty person, but man, this is especially this last year. Woof.
It's been really hard. And when you're running a business for
would-
employees, it's very difficult. Very
So
difficult.
I would encourage you, Andrea, to look into a bookkeeper, because
Oh, yeah.
I think what I think you may find is, it may give you more time back with clients that you can do that, so that you're not so torn. Because and this is what I told my bookkeeper. I'm like, I want to be able to see clients. I just
Yeah.
realized I was just seeing too many. I mean, I've been doing this for 29 years, and it's just, I've just reached a point age wise where it's like, I can do the work still because of barefoot massage, but mentally with everything else, I can't. And so I've had to draw back on some of that, but I still am able to do, just reduce days for 3 to 4
Right.
days. And
that's the
not
joy.
have to completely give it up. Yeah, because that's
Right.
that's the fun part. The rest of it, is not.
No, it's
But
not.
she's really helped me do that. So
And
I
here's
encourage you.
here's the thing that I think we're all talking about and not saying out loud is that making those decisions is a risk, right? It's like I need to then invest my time and the revenue I'm counting on having, 6 weeks from now, which is in the service industry, in our industry, is like, because we can only do so many services in a week, right? So if one of my LMTs decides the grass is greener, right? Or God forbid, like I currently have someone out with a cut hand, right? And, then that's a loss of revenue, right? If you have 4 therapists, one therapist gone is what? A 25% reduction in revenue. So I have to bank on my own future, and I have to bank on what's going on for however many months into the future, right? To make a decision like that. Like I have to trust that if I hire a bookkeeper, then it's going to open up X, Y, and Z. It's going to cost me X, Y, and Z. I have to take the time up front to set it all up, to explain it, to get clear on what it is that I want to get from this, right? Like some of the decisions I haven't made yet, like hiring a lawyer to write contracts, A, is because it's extremely expensive. B, because I need a whole lot of mental bandwidth just to sit down and be like, here's, what we need to set it up. So it's another risk. It's this constant negotiation of risks. It's this constant negotiation of just like blindly trusting essentially that everything's going to be okay 4 weeks from now. And I'm going to make the decision to, to expand or to, hire or to diversify or whatever it is. Does that make sense? And that piece of it doesn't, I didn't show up here with, with any kind of family support or, not that it's terrible that people have it, I've been on my own for an extremely long time. And all of this was like, what do I have in hands to work with, right? It was 4 years in that I took out the first business loan, and I had to trust that I could come up with that and repay that, in that period. It's a lot, the business is an LLC, and I'm still personally responsible.
That's right. And it is
at the end of the day.
Yeah, the people don't understand the risk. You look at what your minimum and your maximal amount of income is going to be, and you rely on your employees, just like what you said. But they don't necessarily go, oh, I'm going to take 2 weeks off on vacation, and that's nice.
Right.
But we're going to lose the revenue for that, but our expenses don't change.
Right.
Stay the same. And or I'm just going to be honest because that's who I am. Massage therapists in general, the current group that we have out there that are functioning as massage therapists, they're not very good at being employees.
Yeah.
They don't get it. And part of it is because they were skilled toward or biased toward the self-employment model. And they don't understand the benefits of going to work, having all of this other stuff done, and go home. We don't ever get to go home. And so there's, well, what do you mean I have to take a load of laundry out of the dryer? Or you're only paying me per massage, when no, no, we're not. And what do you mean I need to clean my room at the end of the day? Or well, I can call in at the last minute and not show up, and who's going to call all those clients and reschedule? And and I think part of the problem with that is, in addition to just not really understanding what the employer-employee relationship is. Part of that, I think, is that employers are not transparent enough and sitting down with them. And now I don't have that issue because I hire who I train in the school. And when I train them in school, they know, they get it. But you can't rely on that. And so they probably don't get it. They probably don't understand the risk. They probably don't understand the ripple effect that happens when they call at the last minute and say, I can't come in. Or if an emergency happens in their world, one of our employees, her father is in the hospital with COVID. And as a team, as a family, we're working to support her as much as we can. But she's one of our busier massage therapists. And so everybody else is trying to cover her and all of that. But we are having a revenue dip because she needs to be someplace else, and we're supporting her in that. So I think that the idea that employees need this, and this, and I know that's a passion for you, Stephanie, but I also think that it's a disconnect, and maybe there wouldn't be so much friction if there was a better understanding of both sides. So that's why I support Stephanie, is because I think that she is trying to do that. And by having us come on and talk about it from the other side, and the passion and the emotion that you are showing is letting people know that we're not behind the scenes just trying to make money off you and try, that really isn't what we're trying to do. So
we are your peers. We are your peers. We are your sisters and your brothers, right? I mean, we all did the same training at one point or another. And we're all just trying to make it better. And sure, there's people out there who aren't. And there's, I think, a lot of I've worked for a number of LMTs, and I've seen it done not very well at all, right?
yeah.
And everything that I do is in reaction to that. But then I like you said, Sandy, I look at the cost of payroll, and I look at the burden of being an employer, and then all of the implicit prejudices that get put upon simply because I'm boss, right? Like, I don't want to be boss anymore, by the way. Like, I just want to be a peer, and like, let's just all be professionals together.
Yeah, it doesn't work though, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And it only takes one bad apple on the team. It only takes one employee that got or won't take out the trash, or, and then that unsettles everybody. In my system, that's my daughter. My daughter is the boss. She's not a massage therapist. And she's comes from a business background. That's where training. She comes from out of the military. She spent time in the military. And
Oh
so,
boy.
there's certain things that are expected, and that, this is what you do. This is common courtesy, that these are the
Right.
things that you do. And my son and I, who are both massage therapists, we temper that just a little bit. We go, well, now, and so I think that if business owners who are not massage therapists had some solid experts that they could go to and say, okay, now look, business owner, and you're really good at that, and that's good. But here also is what you need to consider with your business being massage therapist. Massage is your product, and it's delivered by a person. So you got to understand that. And a lot of franchisees across the whole structure come out of, their background is food. They come out of restaurants and franchising through restaurants. And
Right.
so they understand, they really get it. They get it, but they don't quite, it takes them a while. They really need to understand the nuances related to massage. And I talk to a lot of business owners, franchise or not, and they want to learn. They're not the ogre, just like you said, but my God, when I announced to the public world, Sandy Frisk, massage therapist, textbook writer, school owner, that we were opening a franchise,
Oh, I bet. Mhm.
was mean. The massage therapy community was like a viper. It was not good. And I thought, shame on us, massage therapy community, that we can't be open to see what's going on with this and find common ground. But that comes out of fear. That comes out of not understanding. That comes out of change. Julie, you and I, we've been around a long time. And this is a new concept for massage therapy. And the old guard, they're fighting tooth and nail for the way it was. And it isn't that way anymore.
But it's been diluted to this thing that's like, oh, so I go in and I have this. I don't want to be sarcastic, but if all the job is to go in and work on a body, right, and then puff, you're done. But I mean, that's not it. That's the impression. I don't know. I mean, I've taught in schools for years, but the reality is, like, for every hour of body work, there is at least 30 minutes, at least, if not 2.5 total service time to process. Like, how did you get that client? How did you get the space? If that time wasn't accounted for that individual, then how are you going to utilize or produce revenue in that time when that person doesn't show up or you don't show up, right? How do you retain that client that you invested all that time and energy into getting on your table to begin with? Who's going to do the laundry? Who's going to wipe the baseboards every couple of months? Who's going to change the HEPA air purifiers? Do you have them? Are your rooms exhausted? Do you have, several $1,000s to, like, COVID? You know what I mean? Like, all these things. And I'm in these groups, and it's like I was asked to present on a national level, like, what I had done to outfit. And just I didn't, because I had time. But when I talked to some individuals, they're like, well, I can't do this. It's too much investment. Like, I don't have enough resources. Like, the model of my clinic is a collaborative model. we get more done under a roof and we can work together. But I guess what I'm reflecting on what you're saying, Sandy, like coming out of school, it's not just 55 minutes in a treatment room.
No,
When you're really down on, so why do we keep telling students, right? Like you don't have to work at McDonald's anymore. And I had students, they were like full-time single moms working at McDonald's, going to school at night, right? In what career period, are you going to come out making $60 an hour
none.
of any career at all, that you are not walking away with at least 100 grand student loans because you went all the way through grad school, and even then physicians work 40-hour shifts, right? I mean, like, there is a cost to every benefit. I mean, that's just the reality of the world. There's not a single occupation you can go into that it doesn't cost something, whether it's time, effort, sweat equity, earning your place, right?
Well, and you can compare business gross to what your person gets with a W-2. If a person is self-employed, they can't say, I earned $95,000. You did not, because, you have all of the business expenses. What I tell people to do is compare what you pay income tax on. So an employee is going to pay income tax on, and it'll show on a W-2. A sole proprietor, you got to get to what's the bottom line after you get done with your Schedule C. Show
Yep.
me that. I don't want to know what your business gross was if I'm trying to compare real income that I now take and go pay my own bills with. And massage therapists feel like they're being cheated because others are telling them, well, I made $85,000 a year. Show me your Schedule C. Show me what you actually paid income tax on. They won't.
Yeah, that's a big difference between what you make in gross and what you make in net after you pay all of your expenses. I mean, that can be a huge, huge difference. I mean, I want to talk about benefits a little bit too with you
Can
guys.
I say something?
Yeah.
Really quick? Yeah, just a concrete example. In our biggest year before COVID, right? Our gross was not a lot. It was about $400,000, right? And the takeaway at the end of the day was like about 60.
Yeah.
So if you do the math on 60 divided by 400, that's 15%.
Yeah.
That's not, that's out of $400,000
Mhm.
after everybody's paid. So that's like what I got to take home. Now you know what I made and paid taxes on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no. And I paid more as an IC or even then, right? Because
Most
shoot,
therapists who are business owners will make more money with less headache if they stay a sole practitioner.
it's true.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's talk about benefits a little bit, you guys.
Okay.
Can I go back?
A lot of people are. Andrea,
Well,
There.
massage therapists, business owners are saying, I've had it, I'm done, and they're going back to their sole practice.
I know several, if not many, and lots of people have left the practice altogether.
Cat visiting.
Well,
Stephanie wants to talk about something else.
benefit.
Well,
Yeah.
I just know we have about 45 minutes left, right? So on the benefits, I want to talk about that a little bit because I know, like, I've worked for a franchise where they would go into a dental practice and they would say, hey, we'll give you guys massages in exchange for maybe a discount on dental work for our employees. So they were able to get us like a discount dental work for something like that. We didn't have health insurance. We eventually got 401k. But I kind of want to talk about that and like, what are the expenses to you as a business owner to provide those sorts of benefits because I know they're really expensive. They can be very costly, both on the side of the employee and the employer. So let's talk about that a little bit so we can kind of share like why some locations don't have benefits and why some locations only have a limited amount of benefits.
So I'll start. Health insurance subsidized by the employer is falling apart and not working, period. Okay. And a person can do they can do better by going on to the exchange the way it is right now with the Affordable Care Act. So in order for an employer to provide health insurance, the cost benefit ratio is not, you would be better paying your employee a little bit more and say, go get your own insurance instead of trying to have an employee plan. The other problem with an employee, one of the reasons why it's falling apart in general, not just with us, is that if the health insurance is tied to the employer and the employee leaves or the employer goes out of business, that insurance doesn't go with them. There is a transition time. I think it's called COBRA or something. But if the person gets their own insurance through the exchange with subsidies they might be able to get or whatever, they own their own insurance and it doesn't disappear when the employer disappears or they leave the employer. I don't recommend that businesses, small businesses especially, have health insurance, medical insurance as a benefit. And that system's falling apart anyway. So if you want to help your employees, like I say, you might do better by not paying for the health insurance benefit and giving them maybe a yearly subsidy or a yearly bonus or something in order to help cover that. Most of us give the employee discount on services, and we have some level of maybe some paid time off. But I think that the whole employer, the employer gives me benefits, I think that is falling apart at its roots and needs to be thoroughly explored and explained. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm going to get benefits, but they don't realize that they're paying every bit of that. You know, it's costing the employer too. It's like the payroll taxes. You pay half, I pay half, kind of a thing. So that's my 2 cents on the benefit issue. Maybe it's 7 cents worth.
Do you have any benefits for your employees, Julie? I know you're really small, so.
Yeah, I mean, I only have 3, and I could not find any that I could afford as was. And I mean, we did look into Aflac, and I had some like, disability and something accidental insurance that I offered employees and helped to help pay for those, but nobody took me up on it. And so basically it's, we offer 30% discount on in-house body work and training. When they come on, I pay for their first barefoot training. It's like $700. And then on a monthly basis, we do training. And that is like, they can use that for continuing education hours. And then almost every year I've brought in someone outside. And, one year we did cupping, another year we did something else. And I paid for those employees to learn that. So that's kind of free CEs on their end again. So those are the benefits that I have offered so far.
And then Andrea, I know that you have health insurance benefits and things like that. So let's talk about your costs on that. Oh, but you're muted.
I already know, Sandy, I spend too much on my employees. So you're gonna hear more now. Well, I am a single mom, so I needed health insurance, and I had employees who needed health insurance as well, and blah blah blah. I didn't. My employees I have a group health plan, and it's a pretty good one through MODA, which is local to here. It covers limited chiropractor, acupuncture, $20 office visit. I think it's $15 office visit. I used it all of last year and had virtually nothing out of pocket, which was fantastic. So we have dental, vision, and medical, a $250 deductible, and employees pay $230 a month, so like $115 per paycheck. And I pay $140 per paycheck. I upped that this year because it's a deductible expense. It used to be 50-50, now it's like 60-40. For me, and I did hear that. So it took an entire year of bargaining and negotiating to find someone who would get us a plan with 10 employees or less. And then they have to have a certain number of hours per week. So we had to correct our pay structure and make sure that when we hire someone, we can afford to keep them for 25 hours a week, even though they don't have clients yet, blah, 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 because we're small potatoes. Well, I guess we're medium potatoes now, not small potatoes anymore. And so that's an expense. I think it comes out to be like $2,500 a month, and then 40% of that gets withheld from paychecks. But I did at the end of the first year, I was like, okay, finally, like we have health insurance. And my employee who at the time who really, really was pushing for it was like, oh, well, I'll get a better deal from the exchange if I mean, really? So it's like I just can't win. But then I got divorced, and so I needed health insurance. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, this is why we talk to each other. But yeah, everyone has health insurance, and I'm glad that I have it, and I'm glad that my employees have it, and I know that the longer we keep it, the better our rates. And then we had more options this year than we did last year, and for me, I mean, it's $300 a month on top of what they're getting paid. So that's $4,000 a year. And kind of backtracking for a minute, I did put like your total pay package, right? I've been trying to bring awareness to like what, as an employer, we're actually paying, right? So it's like, it's your pay hourly, so we honor your time. Then you get service pay, right, per unit of service, and then we pay into, right, your protections as an employee, and we pay for your security as an employee, and we abide by the rules as your employer as an employee, and then we pay medical benefits, and then a massage a month. I know, and then there's more, right? And then paid time off after a year, and CEs that I bring in, or like we have a whole handbook. So, 10-year, you get a little bit more, up to 50% reimbursement or a dollar amount reimbursement per year. And for a while I was bringing in like group CEs, but it's hard to shut down for an entire weekend because then you lose resident revenue, right? To shut everything down and have everyone in a CE. I mean, I guess if there was a cliff notes for this whole conversation is it's not cheap, but I feel good about having health insurance. And at the end of the day, and I know we keep saying this, but there is a huge perceptual shift that and some awareness that needs to come around what your three options are, right? Or four, right? So you can be solo, you can be an employee, you can be an IC, or you can be an employer in this field.
Now,
Sorry if I sidetracked Stephanie.
no, you did not. You did a good job. The now the franchises, again, as a group, like Massage Green, has negotiated with a health insurance provider that then we as an individual franchisee, because we're a solo business, we do our, it's not a chain, franchises are not chains. And so we did the math on what it was a good program, but people have to be full-time. Almost all of our people are part-time by choice. And there were so many other restrictions that we found that the students, that's my teacher part of me showing over here, the employees did better on the exchange.
So I have a question for you guys. This actually just recently came up, so it's not on our agenda. But what would you guys say to the idea that businesses, franchises in particular, but that massage businesses are really just a place to like gain experience? They're just a stepping stone to, your self-employment practice, right? Or to owning your own business. It came up a few times over the course of the last week. So, I mean, what do you guys have to say about that? What do you think?
I wrote an article about this actually, that the franchise model that's out there now does provide entry-level employment. And we're open to that, where a lot of other employers are not. That means that there is an investment in that person in terms of training, and not just in massage skills, but soft skills around what's going on and all of that. I said to employers, you need to embrace the idea that you are providing a launch pad for some people,
Right.
and be proud that you do that. But that also means that you're going to have a revolving door a little bit, which is hard on the business. And so it is unethical for somebody to use a business owner to gain clients and then go off and start their own thing. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with an employee coming to me and saying, I want to, in fact, I encourage them. I want to have a little bit of a side business where I'm going to do mobile, or I'm going to do this. And as long as they're transparent, as long as they give me, good work while they're there, they're loyal, then I'm going to be supportive of that. But that's not how it comes down. And so an employer, franchise, who will take somebody right out of school and will nurture and, teach them the ropes and put them in an environment where they can grow. And then they quit at the last minute, and say, well, I'm just going to go start my own business now. But that being said, if somebody really is unhappy being an employee, then they just shouldn't be one. And if they have an intention of, I want to start with you, I want to learn from being part of this, I want to be part of the team, but my intention is to move on, then tell me that.
Yeah.
So I think employers get misused a lot for that. And it's not, I don't think it's right. So, but the employers just need to know that. They just need to know
And
that. They need to embrace that as part of what they're doing for the massage community.
I love it if everyone listened to you, Sandy. I literally had a patient say, hey, how did I get on this email list from this other bodywork clinic? And it was an employee that pursued me for 9 months to partner with me. And the 100% intention was to steal. And I've had that happen to me twice, and it's only been 6 years. And it seems to be a common practice. I mean, when I got out of school thinking that's stealing, right? It's not like, I don't know. It's not like I just puff and open the door. Like the first 3 years of this business, I had touched every single person that continued to walk through our doors, right? And it was a relationship that I had cultivated personally. It wasn't like there's a lottery of massage clients and you get your section and they're automatically assigned to you. Like, it takes work to build clientele. And when, I'm always amazed, like, let go of a practitioner and then people are like, oh yeah, and then I was looking for so and so on Facebook, or so and so told me such and such. And it's like, it is an ethical issue. It's not about something belonging to me, to the exclusivity, but there's just a common courtesy and a decency, but I think it's a lack of perspective of the effort that it takes, right? There's one side where it's like, there's what's looked at as, right, so our rule is we don't hire less than 2 years out of school, but
Right.
it's even then, it's just amazing. We've had to build contracts that's like, hey, we'll invest the 6 months into getting you paneled, right? And if you leave within 6 months, you got to pay that money back, because we literally pay someone to do it. Because we have people who come in and I've seen the word on the streets, like, oh, just get a job, they'll panel you and then you can take it with you. It's like, how did signing a paycheck make me less than a human being or a colleague or a peer, deserving of less respect or courtesy as I am your professional colleague? And it's just, it's hard not to, try not to be bitter.
Do you take people right out of school, Julie?
I have, being small, I just really, I don't have the turnover that a lot of people have had. So literally I have four therapists now that are no longer with me that I've gone through in the 6 years. So most of my therapists that have come through have been in the business for a while and have had experience. I have one therapist that I took her not right out of school, but probably within her first year. And that was simply because I was teaching a barefoot massage class, found out she was right out of school, and she was really good. And I said, you want a job? And she came back after about a month and asked me, are you serious? And I'm like, I'm absolutely serious. Well, she's still with me 5 years later. And actually, she went back to structural integration school. She just got out. And, we have talked, and she's my high-end therapist. And she said to me, she worked for one person while she had, before she came to me. And she told me, she said, I have no desire to work for myself. I see all the paperwork and stuff that you do and all the behind the scenes stuff. She says, I have no desire to do that. As long as you'll, as long as you're open, I'm working for you. So, and I'm blessed in that regard to have her. And then I have another therapist she's now been with me for 4 years, and she came out of not Massage Envy, but another franchise. And basically, she said the same thing. So I think there are just therapists out there that, they get out of school and they know that they're going to want to work for somebody. There's some that, say, oh no, I want to be self-employed, and they want to go do their own thing. And then they find out later, no, I this is just too much, or they just don't have certain skills, or they can't build the practice up that they thought they could. And then there's some, just life happens and things change. But I've just, in my interview process, I kind of come out and asked people, what are your long-term goals? What are you looking for? And, and some, they just want to come work, learn barefoot massage under me for a while and then see where it goes. And some are like, I tried self-employment and it's not what I want. And I want to work for somebody and let all the other stuff, somebody else handle. So, and that's our ideal, those are our ideal, therapists, I think. But, like you said, it can be a revolving door. And sometimes you just don't know what therapists don't know, or you fail to recognize those therapists who come in and they're just looking to, get their feet under them and learn and then move out on their own eventually. And, it's just a roll of dice, I guess. But for me, I've just been fortunate with the therapists that I have had that have recognized where they are, and that they love coming in, seeing clients and having that, just being able to come in, work, have a great space, work with other people, and then go home and leave it. I wish I could work for myself. I tell my employees all the time, I wish I could hire myself and just work for myself, clock in, come in and work, do my soap notes, and go home, and, let somebody else do all the other stuff I do after I work, and I come home and I get on the computer and I do all the other stuff. But
Out of school for 35 years. The employment model is really only about 10 years old, really. And it broke my heart then, it breaks my heart still. Fantastic massage therapists, get, the heart, the spirit, the hands, the whole, and they did not succeed because they just inherently were not business people.
mhm.
I wanted to say, I think it's important to note that things were really stable until we started growing really fast.
Yeah.
And in the year before COVID, we had 2 years straight where we increased our revenue by 50 to 70%.
Mhm.
And so we had a year ago today, we had 11 employees, including myself. I wasn't an employee yet, so it was 10 people.
Mhm.
And it was in that jump so before that, and my first employee would have been with me 6 years, this October, 6 of the 7 years. Yeah. And she had a baby. And there were just, I think, like you were saying, Julie, it is a roll of the dice. I feel like the people that came to us who wanted to be a part of what we were doing are the people that have stuck around. And for the most part, the hires that I've made have been with me at least a year, if not 3 or 4. But when we got to that point between 7 and 10 people, we started finding a whole different dynamic.
Mhm.
Then drama appeared, right? Yep. It was like my garden got just big enough. And then there were all these HR things that I'd never encountered before that I wasn't necessarily prepared to deal with. And then we needed to have leads, and then and so that growth between 7 and 10. So everything is super chill now. There's 6 of us, right? But in a year, I've hired an OM. My lead is doing that piece now, right? So I can have some distance from it, because if it grows from here and we bring on another 2 practitioners, it requires its own department, which then requires more costs, which then requires more risk, and So yeah, I'm actually like this morning I sat down to write down like community operating guidelines because I'm gonna start renting rooms again because I mean we're turning away business, but it's just so hard to hire right now. And as is obvious, like the expectations are all mixed up. And I think I mean it's everyone gets to do their own thing, but to be honest with you, we need community more than ever. And that's and being in a group setting is there's it's a play between sizing, I think. Anyway, we could talk about this forever. I don't want to take up all the time, but there is a difference in that dynamic. Like in school, you talk about communication between 2 people and then 3 people and then 5 people. Like the intricacy and the nuances of those dynamics start to change. And for me, I felt like 2 years ago, I'm like that grade school I went to in a city that grew so fast that there were more trailers than there were classroom buildings.
Mhm.
And so we literally had to deconstruct everything and build it again on this scale. And then COVID happened, right? So like, I don't even know anymore. But the benefit of having a franchise, and I want to, for one, like give a high 10 to franchises. A lady I taught with in Albuquerque for a few years, single mom, 2 kids in grade school. Her daughter was an infant. She worked at Massage Envy. She worked the program. She did her work. She qualified for a mortgage and bought her own house for her and her daughters
Yep.
with no help. And she did that because she had secure and solid and regular employment. And that's why and I'm lucky in my group health, I was able to do the minimum of 25 hours a week, right? So our employees work the minimum of 25 hours a week, right? The combination of duties, everyone's got we don't max people out. Everyone gets 2 days off in a row. It's a lot of hand holding in the schedule, but once it's done, it works, right? And I feel fortunate to be able to offer that. But there is that real piece, like, do you want to buy a house, right? You're either going to be 5 years self-employed and show a solid income and be able to prove that your books are, you know what I mean? Or there's I think maybe it's just also more perspective. Like I went to massage school in '02. I don't remember how old I was, but I'm going to turn 45 in a few weeks. And, I feel really, really fortunate that I was able to buy a home for myself, right? I wouldn't have been able to do that without doing all the bookkeeping and the maths and the accounting. And sure, it's like I can deduct everything and show that I'm not making any money, right? So I avoid taxes. So I played that game for a while. Yes. However, if you're trying to prove that you can pay a mortgage,
Right.
how are you going to do that when you're only proving that you're making, I don't know, nothing?
Yep.
I mean, let's just, there's short sight and there's what I want right now in front of me, but there's also like the rest of your life.
Mhm.
All right, so there's like 2 more things I want to cover. We have about 15 minutes left. So I want to talk about practical interviews. Now, I've heard that some people are like, I should be paid for my practicals, and I'm not going to give away my service for free. So I want you to kind of address that and also kind of talk about what are you looking for when somebody does a practical? How could they really ace that with you? And, make sure that they're going to get hired. And then I'm going to go ahead and give you the second one too, just so you guys can talk. Non-compete agreements. Do you have a non-compete agreement? What does it do for you? And what about the employee who says, I'm not going to sign this non-compete agreement. This is ridiculous. Can we talk about that?
So the brand, most of the brands, Massage Green, we have a non-compete. It is an attempt to protect the employer from what we talked about earlier, of people coming in and then taking away large chunks of business. The truth is that very rarely are they ever upheld. So I don't support non-compete, but it is one of the things that, when you are part of, when you're a franchisee, there are certain parts of you have a lot more freedom than people think in terms of how you pay and schedule and all that. But there are some things that have legal ramifications that you have to stay in compliance with. And so our therapists sign a non-compete, but we tell them that we expect them to be ethical, and that if they truly find that there's going to be another employment possibility for them or something, to come talk to us about it. Okay, so non-competes really don't work. They don't hold up legally, and it would be a lawsuit in order to even enforce it. So it's kind of like having somebody sign informed consent, a client signing informed consent. That doesn't hold up either in court, because all somebody has to say is, I didn't understand that. So, but it has an appearance of protection. As far as giving a massage as part of a job interview, I mean, if I were going to hire a painter, I want to know what their work is like. I mean, I think that's kind of nitpicky. I would kind of go, come on, get over yourself. I want to know what you're able to do. And the only way I'm going to know that is to watch you do a massage. All right. Or receive one from you. Now, come on. It's not like I'm asking you to do 150, you don't have to do a week for free or so. I'm not asking that. So I think people that whine about that are whining. And I think they should get over themselves.
Yes. All right, Julie, what do you think about that?
So I'm gonna say I'm not gonna hire a whiny person. Because I'm just gonna nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
And so I'll go backwards. So as far as the body work, I mean, I can tell like a half an hour massage if this is somebody that I'm gonna want to hire, just by their contact, their touch, and the way they approach it. Within 10 minutes or so, I'm like, yeah, nah. What I also do is I also give them a barefoot massage, so that they can experience, this is what they're going to learn, and this is what I'm going to teach them, because that's what we do. We specialize in barefoot massage. And so it's it's not an even trade. They get more than I get, basically, but they get to touch me and I get to touch them. So I've never had any complaints about that. And it helps me learn too while I'm working on them. There's some dialogue going and stuff. So it's another learning curve for me. I mean, I like to see that therapists are taking care of their body. And, I get somebody in and go, oh, I haven't had a massage in years or whatever. And I'm just like, it's not good in my book. I don't think that's a healthy therapist. And I don't, I like to have a well-rounded therapist in that regard. So that gives me information there as well. And as far as the non-compete, yeah, I have it in my contract. Is it enforceable? No, but I think it's just one of those necessary evils that's out there. We talk about it and then we address it later on. I really haven't had any issues with it. I've had some therapists that I know in hiring them that they had a practice elsewhere, but it was it was outside of my radius. My radius is like 20 miles and they were like 25, 30. And so I just didn't foresee a problem with that with clients. And the way I look at it with non-compete, I just, I tell my therapist, we strive to make our place a place where clients who are local and around us, where they want to come to us. If they find somebody else that better suits their needs, that are nearer to us, then fine. That's their choice. And it's just, I just really don't believe a lot in competition per se. I think there's a massage therapist on every corner. There are not great massage therapists on every corner. And it's really hard to find a really good body work and massage practice and studio that really provides value to people. And once people find out what you're about and they get that, I don't think you have anything to worry about. So.
I'm with you there, Julie.
Yeah.
Yeah, our product is relationship and it's quality. We're about quality first. I pay people for their practical if we hire them. And we're looking for in a practical is the fundamentals, right, of quality touch. I have them do an assessment. I ask them what they see. Sometimes what I've been doing lately is actually, I rarely am the recipient of the practical. I observe them. I have them work with one of my team members and I will observe from beginning to end, or I'll observe the assessment. And then I'll be like, I'm going to pop in and I give them the opportunity to receive my feedback and coaching mid-session, right? I'm big on body mechanics, huge on body mechanics. So I can see and sense when a practitioner is ungrounded in a session. And so I offer them, a gentle reminder and see how they correct themselves and how they respond to feedback, because we're a teaching place. Mm-hmm. So that's really receptivity to learning and being, I've been doing this 19 years and I still can be blown away by the amazing abilities of the human body and everything that's inside of it. So a willingness and openness to learn. What's on paper is only for me the beginning. So we do pay people for their practical if we hire them. And I'm with Julie, a half an hour is enough. You really don't need much more than that. And then, and non-compete. So we have one as a part of it. I have been an employee who refused to sign one. I'm in agreement. They're not really worth much. Something I've thought about the last couple of years. And I saw a copy of one I thought was really cool. And it was a commitment to ethical practice, right? You're an agreement of standards of practice and an ethics agreement that should be part of the employment contract. And I probably should take off to the coast for a weekend and write that down when I have the bandwidth to. But really, that's something that it's on my to-do list is an operational ethical commitment, right? And it really isn't I want you to stay forever. I want to know, right? I want to be as transparent with you as you are with me, right? If you have other plans, if this doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve you, right? If it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve us either. You know what I mean? It doesn't serve anyone to be unserved. So, if there's a problem, be transparent about it so we can find the solution, because nobody's perfect. I'm definitely sure that I'm not. And if it's, unresolvable or it just wasn't the right fit to begin with, which we try to figure out in that whole recruitment process, then, then we take it from there. But I think I know that I'm going to bring that in and with the room rentals, I think what I've been reaching for is a ethical agreement or an ethical commitment standard of practice contract, right? and that it isn't about like, oh, you can't open up next door, but that, you know, we're on the same page as to what the definition of these ethics are within practice, right? As colleagues first.
Yeah, I think sometimes with the non-compete, what the business owner is trying to protect themselves, they're trying to protect themselves with that language from massage employees that job hop and pick up and leave and go someplace else. And there usually is a mile. Massage Greens is 5 miles. You know, it's not, and it's for 3 months. You know, this is not, so it's not about trying to stop competition. It's more about trying to keep people from going, you know, working 2 weeks and then hop to another place and that sort of thing.
All right. Well, I don't think we have any questions. I've been kind of keeping an eye on that on our live. So I think we're pretty much done, but I want to thank you guys so much for coming on here, for having the transparency to come on and talk about all of this with us. Andrea, did you have something else?
I just wanted to throw something out there because I and myself, and I've talked with a lot of local clinic owners, and I don't imagine this is exclusive to my area, but there's a lot of people that apply for jobs and then don't respond back, or literally don't show up for interviews. And
Right.
so I just want to bring some attention to this expectation that we're a superior field that deserve extraordinary respect. Yes, we all deserve, everybody does. But behaving that way is important as well. And when you don't show up for an interview, or, you know, you've inquired for a job and we take the time to look over and then respond back, and then again, like, oh, maybe we have the wrong phone number through Indeed or whatever, it's a reflection on the profession. And we are all in this together and have the ability to elevate and be respected, right? We don't get enough respect. We don't get enough respect. We're mixed up with sex workers. We're mixed up with this. We're mixed up with that. You know, but we have the power as in our individual behavior, right? Which reflects on all of us as a professional group to make a difference. That's all I wanted to say.
I love that, and I'm so glad that you said that. I also love the idea of having an ethical practice agreement. If employers were to do that instead of having a non-compete agreement that isn't really enforceable, I think that it would be much more understandable to employees, because we're all taught ethics, right? We're all taught about that. And so that makes a lot more sense to me. And I love that idea. I think that is progressive and something that employers could really look at to make a difference. Yeah, and don't not respond and ghost your interview. Okay, that happens so much. It happened to me. I went on a position to interview for a position in Scottsdale, and my practical was like 5 minutes long. The person interviewing me knew, right? It only took a few minutes to know that they wanted to hire me or not, and I thought that was great. But he also told me that he had set up 12 interviews and no one showed up. It's a lot of time for a manager. It's a lot of time for an owner. It's way too much time to have to deal with to try to find an employee to hire. So yeah, I agree with all of that. So I really hope that this has shed some light on like what it takes to run a business, what it takes to start up a multi-therapist practice. I know it's expensive. It definitely has its challenges. And I'm glad to see that there was some emotional connection in this conversation, because nobody sees that side of things. So Andrea, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, and so I hope that this really helped, and thank you guys all for coming on. I'm just going to wrap that up.
Thank you for the platform.
All right.
Thank
Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much. You all have
And
a
everyone
wonderful
out
day.
there, like, good luck. It's an amazing profession. God knows it's been so great. Oh, I love what I do. I love, 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 love what I do, even though I hate this part of it sometimes. It still is incredible. I mean, we get to change people's lives, literally.
Yep.
I mean, even just like giving people a moment to be free of limiting pain and dysfunction is an incredible opportunity, and what an honor it is to be in service. I mean, really, yeah.
Yeah. All
Amen.
right. Anything else? No? All right. Well, thank you all so much. It was wonderful to meet you. It was so great to work with you. And I hope that we will do that again in the future. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.